Good evening, folks. Welcome to our episode 4 of Sip and Sketch. And what that means is that you will be needing this evening a simple piece of paper, maybe a board to lean on, or a book, or the table. You will need the whole family. We had a little discussion on the weekend with a chap by the name of Calvin Weir, who lives in Harare in Zimbabwe. He said he had been following along in these episodes, but had not participated. So I challenged him on the weekend. Now it is public that he must be drawing and he must post his drawing. So let's see. And do it with your grandson, because it is designed to be something for the whole family. So, and it is literally supposed to be a step-by-step. Something that is simple, something that is easy to follow. And the idea is that amongst all the chaos that does exist in amongst the world at the moment, there's an element of consistency in that it's all chaos. And if there's chaos upon chaos upon chaos, that is a sense of rhythm to it. You can see that that is, what should we call it, navigatable. Now, I've always thought that art too is navigatable. Somewhere in our past, we've been told by someone, perhaps an art teacher or something, that we are not so good at art and we should perhaps venture into something else, maybe kicking a ball around by ourselves somewhere far away. That's not the case. I do think that perhaps we've been told sometime by someone that we haven't yet learned how to see. And the whole concept of drawing that I've picked up in the past, and in teaching it as well, is that this is about seeing where things are compared to other things, getting a sense of direction. And tonight I want to just do a small step-by-step process of walking your way through creating a pen and ink drawing. Now, for those of you that are new, that haven't done this before, we are going to literally try and give you a step-by-step process of doing something. Last week, we had absolute chaos because the cameras died. Eventually, by the third one, we decided, I think we must just abort. But this week, hopefully, we are doing better. And give us a thumbs up if you can hear us properly. We really appreciate the people that sent their pictures of their artworks that were on the side because they were having to watch with their computers turned on their sides. That I apologize again for our little bit of chaos that existed last week. Hopefully that won't be the case this week. So what you're wanting to do is I'm going to just make it a little bit bigger. You've got, this is the equivalent of your A4 piece. This is the equivalent of your A4 piece of paper. All right, and you should have just some type of basic pilot fine liner. Now you can get other types as well. There's what's called a G-tube. And we'll just, once you throw a little bit of water onto them, they tend to run. Okay, I'm just going to do a quick outline of this, which you can create if you want to, if you've also got a very big piece of paper. I'm going to do a double A4 just so that we can zoom up on it and see what is going on. Now, I tend not to tell you what you are going to be drawing, because what ends up happening is that you have these preconceived ideas in your head about that's what a toaster should look like, or that's what a bicycle should look like. And also you will have somebody sitting next to you perhaps that also says, that does not look like a toaster. You are a toaster. And it can be disconcerting. So we're going to try and put a whole lot of stick figures together, and the real concept is just to try and scribble. And the more you scribble, I think the better the whole thing gets. So, like life, just scribble your way through it and it should be fine. We are our own worst enemies, we're our own worst judges, and I mean, we're in properly uncharted territory. So you have got nothing to lose. And those of you that are doing this, watching it again and not doing it live, you've got even more time to be able to do it. So press pause if you have to catch up. And we are still, whilst this is being videoed and recorded, it is in lockdown in South Africa. We are in Pietermaritzburg, capital city of the KwaZulu-Natal, which is the east coast of South Africa. It's a beautiful, beautiful part of the world. And I've been very lucky to be in my studio for this time. And I do some teaching at an incredible school called Maritzburg College. And we are raising awareness for some of the learners that are in distress at this time, that don't have access to not only data to learn, but also just basic nourishment. And keep a lookout for a time lapse of the scene of an avenue coming together, which is raising awareness for hashtag lockdown relief. It's a wicked initiative. And hopefully you can contribute to it by making an artwork. When that comes out, I'll let you know what it's all about. Okay, so I'm just going to zoom you up a little bit so that you can really have it focused on the artwork rather than my mug. And hopefully we will be pothole free on our way through this. Okay, so first thing first, we've got just a little, you don't need to put a dot there, but it's really for me to show you that that's the center of the artwork. Then about a quarter of the way up and a quarter of the way down. We then also have going right, that would be a quarter of the way across, and that'll be a quarter of the way in from the left-hand side. And the whole time when you're drawing, you want to be able to see where is he scribbling compared to where he has scribbled before, or where would I have that line compared to another line. They're always like trying to see where things are compared to other things. And I say again, don't look, if you're in a room with somebody else, don't look at theirs, because they are not also perhaps the geniuses of the drawing world. We are all as bad as each other, or all as brilliant as each other. Okay, so here goes. We're going to draw a toaster. We're going to start by having a line that is, this is there. So halfway, what we're going to do is go from halfway. We are going to just scribble, and literally I'm saying now scribble because we had some scribbling last week. We're going to scribble our way down to round about just before the last quarter of the page. We're going to scribble our way down there. Okay, so that is like the curve that, not the curve, the climbing that we are going to do when we come out of this odd interpretation in a world where we are really having to be innovators. Okay, so from there, then what we're going to do is it's really quite exciting, because you just get to do another one of those little scribbles, up, coming up to halfway, and continue up there. So what we've done there is started next to the other one there, and we've literally scribbled our way across. If you've got the time, give us a little note as to where you're following from, so that we know. We've had a lot of complaints from the Aussies saying that it's the wrong time of day, they're still fast asleep. Most people sleep all the time. So to Chris, who's in the southeast, Chris and Claire, and your younglings, hope you get to do this after you can watch it again, because it's some early, very early hours of the morning now. So maybe in due course we will change the time, so it'll be good for the Australasians, my family who live in that part of the world as well. Okay, so what we're doing is near the halfway, just below the halfway mark, we are going to, just below that, we're going to do a gentle curve that goes up like this. Gentle curve that falls there. Try and keep a single line close to itself. There we go. Nice and simple. Nearly there. That's looking amazing. It is not a rainbow, it's not unicorns, but feel free to add those in should you wish to. Okay, nice and simple. At halfway, we can do a little step up there, and we can run another line. That's about a pen's width. We're going to run across and continue that line. All right. Grant, I hope you're checking that your dad is doing this in Harare. Please feel free to comment. All right. On the other side of that, we're going to do a little drop down there. So a little line to the right that's curving down a very small amount, and then another line there vertically to create that, what do we call, I suppose, a little box. Excellent. Looking fabulous. So from there now, we've created the left-hand side of the toaster. We're going to come where you've got 1/4 of the way across there to there. In the middle of that quarter, let's drop it down to be just about half the distance down, vertical line, straight to about there. So we should see nice and simple. If you're wanting to measure, it should be about 3 spaces to the left of this right-hand side here. A nice little block on the left-hand side there. Okay, and then from there, we're going to run a line down off the left-hand side. See, it's just a line going straight down off the left-hand side. Still, if you have any guesses of what you're drawing here, that'll be fantastic. And if you look at the persons next to you and they're rubbish, then give yourself a thumbs up as well, because it's all about just being able to listen. That's really what it's about. And see where some things are compared to other things. Rightio, now this is where it really gets complicated, because we're going to do something like more of a curve, and you're going to have to really think, rather than using the metacarpals, we want to try and use the whole arm because it has less of a less wobble there. So we're going to try and do a curve. It can be a little bit wobbly, but I've done about 400 there now. You just want to try and get one neatly on top of itself. And you'll see that it goes across, and it's a little bit higher there than it is here. The side's a bit lower. If you've already done it and it's not, it doesn't matter, but we want to be able to try and get it so that this side is a little bit lower than that side. Okay, and if it doesn't look like that, that's not the end of the world. It doesn't have to be so that the apex, the top of the curve is in the middle. If it's over towards the left-hand side, then you can look at yourself and say, yo, I am an amazing artist, because this, by going further away, we tend to find that the curve will be, the top of the curve will be further across. And if you have that flair to be able to see that, now you know what, this curve is actually peaking further away from the right-hand side, you must do some more art. You have a natural flair for seeing the way that shapes should go. Okay, if you have not, that does not matter either. Art is about learning. You can learn to see shapes. Okay, now we're going to do another one. That's the same little bouncing top we had on the top here. We want to do the same sort of distance and repeat that on top of this curve here. We're going to just do it again. Now we've got the other one to follow with it to show us where to go. Okay. Now last week, because I ran out of pens, they just all kept dying. I've got about 17 today. And that one's also just died. I seem to be recycling these things. Pilot Fine Learner, I hope you're watching. Okay, so there we go. We've got that runs over. It's looking rather spectacular. And okay, so now at where this joins here, we want to just drop it down a wobbly line, sort of straight down to halfway between meeting that other one. From where this curve stops and meets the vertical, we're going to come down to the right-hand side there. Well, maybe at a 45-degree angle. We've got level. Let's drop down to halfway to being vertically. And from there, what we can do is we can dribble our way off the page here on the left-hand side. We want to try and make sure that that is actually going off the left-hand side of the page, not off the bottom. Because that will just give us some better understanding of perspective. Fabulous. All right. Now it's nice to see Vicky and Steve, who's done some amazing work. Those two are really... Vic, I'm sorry that you're complaining about the cliffs last week. You maybe just didn't listen properly. Right, so... we are going to, that was a joke. That was a joke. Okay, what we're going to do is dribble up on the left-hand side here, and we're going to create an S with a little tail on it. All right, if you see that we've got the space of this here, we've got a little bit up that left curve there, just about a third of the way up. we're going to create a small little S with a little tail on the bottom of it, a little circumflex, I suppose. All right, and from there, what we're going to do is we're going to run a nice little horizontal line across there. Try and make it as horizontal as possible. And that should be able to give us some idea. Now, we also have, I don't know if you are open to safaris, and we've been away from being able to go on safaris and be in the bush. But you've got to check out this guy's live walks. His name is Clive Cowie, and he works out of Phinda Game Reserve in the north of us here, just up the north coast, east coast of South Africa. Does these incredible walks early Saturday mornings. But check him out. His name's Clive Cowie, C-O-W-I-E, and he's part of And Beyond Safaris. So it's takes you walking through that Phinda area. If you have been there before, it is quite a spectacular space. But to walk with somebody who's one with the environment. And so, right. Let us have a look more at trying to create some space. If yours doesn't look like this, it's not a problem. We used to do these in live at Fernhill Hotel and other places. And I would, at this stage, be able to walk around and evict you like Survivor. But maybe there's someone else in the room that says, oh, Dad, yours is looking rubbish. Maybe you should maybe get us make us some dinner or popcorn or whatnot, or don't listen to them. You're good. What we're going to do is we had another little line going up towards the left there, like mixing up on it, doing a replication there. Then on this right-hand side, again, what we're doing is we're going to now try and create a line. We're going to split these up and then do another one and split it up. So what these are little slates. They are slates that are sort of piled on top of each other. This is an old bridge that we're building. And now this is where it really gets quite wicked, in that you can make up this little bridge. We've got this face part of it that's not seeing much light. And so this is where you get to color in. It's really quite wicked in that you can just do straight lines, literally just coloring it in there. Okay, so these lines are just straight lines. You can literally scribble and just cover that in. And we're going to be doing quite a bit of that to show light and dark areas, to show form in 3 dimensions. And the way that you design your bridge now is really quite wicked. You get to do it all on your own, and we can have bricks that, these bricks are piled on top of each other, right? There's some slate bricks that are longer, some that are shorter, and they go along. So what you're going to do is you go along and you create you circle around the entire one in this broken organically geometric shape. Now that sounds a bit odd, but it is a squarish shape, long. Some of them are shorter, some of them are longer, and you can scribble in between them because the light doesn't quite get in there, or that erosion, and you scribble in between them to create that thing. It's a little bit, and this is a really cool technique because no one knows that particular brick, what it looks like. And if you're doing walls and whatnot, you want to, if you've ever been to Great Zimbabwe, the way those bricks are piled up on top of one another, the ruins, you get these, and it's what creates character. And you can picture the moss growing on there, or you can picture your pen running out again. This is special. All right, and so another one. And so we go there. And okay, then we come back with a third one, and we're scribbling backwards and forwards, literally just scribbling, just keep swimming, just keep swimming. It's really about picturing yourself on the side of this little hill, and you are just buzzing along, and you've got your pen out, because this is essential to have this pen, a little pad behind the seat of the car, on the picnic basket, your briefcase. If you're ever stuck in a place, you can literally take it out and just make a little sketch. All right. So now I'm going to leave you to do that if you want, but you can come back and have a look at that. Let's have a look now where the apex of this arch is here. These bricks have been put in, Roman times. They have a vertical one there. And then you're going to go halfway across, and you want to be perpendicular to the line of the curve here. So you want to go across, and then you split that in half as well. So you're always perpendicular. Sometimes what happens is when we're drawing, we start on one side, and we're going, and they end up not looking like a fan. And that just creates a little bit of chaos. People will always mock your bridge when they come past. And it will be taken by one of your friends or family members and put in the spare bathroom, or even worse, in the laundry underneath the washing machine. And you don't want that to happen. You want it to be a beautiful, elegant image. Now, you want to split those again. And if you just keep splitting, you can never really go wrong. You're always just halving those shapes. Not always. Until we get to be widths that are believable as bricks. Now, they don't obviously all have to be the same, because when this was built, imagine trying to put the scaffolding over this river here and then pile those little rocks to the keystone in the middle. Okay, and then also it's possible to scribble on top of them, because you might get one that's a little bit darker and you get a little gap between the other one. And this process of just making is what takes you away from the so-called real world of existence. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the writings of David Foster Wallace. He wrote some amazing stuff, Perceptions of the World. Okay, so we've got that lovely curve going in there in those little bricks. Now, you can then pretty much continue to build it on your own. If we were to separate this now, we've got two leading lines. This one on the top here, and we've got a middle one, and then what would be the bottom of that one to the bottom here. So we have, and you can then run along the top there and down. So you can wobble along there. All right, and it's up to you how many bricks you want to put in there, but let's make it so that there are not too many. All right, so we've got this line of bricks here, and then there we go. So they almost, let's say that they double the width or triple the width of the other bricks, and those are the ones that we pile up there. Okay. Anyway, so David Foster Wallace, he talks about this concept of the so-called real world. And I'm going to go along here and put these little bricks in. And you can make long bricks. Picture them being the sandstone ones that they're piling on top. They come along in carts and stop for sandwiches and making these bricks where life was a little bit simpler, perhaps. Well, you probably died of toothache and life expectancy was 57 minutes after an earache. Okay, so we're going to just keep building there and run these bricks across. Bricks don't sit on top of one another. They've got these little gaps between them. Right. So David Foster Wallace, he says, the so-called real world will not discourage you from operating on your default settings. The so-called real world of men, money, and power that hums merrily along in a pool of fear, frustration, craving, self-worship. Our current society has managed to harness these forces in ways that have generated extraordinary self-worth, that have generated self-wealth and fortune and freedom, extraordinary freedom. And it's the kind of freedom to be the lord of your own tiny skull-sized kingdom, alone at the center of all creation. Now, there's much to be said for the kind of freedom of wanting and achieving and displaying. The other kind of freedom that isn't much talked about in that world of displaying and winning is the other kind of freedom. The kind of freedom that requires attention, and discipline, and focus, and giving to others every day in a myriad of petty and unsexy ways. That's real freedom. And he goes on to say the opposite of which is unconsciousness, where you go along in this world of wanting and achieving and having a sense of having had something and then lost this infinite thing, this gnawing sense of a rat race. It's quite about that. Has made a, so it's pulled a rock out and there we go, so it takes a while to respond. And apologies about that. Camera goes to sleep. And so what you can see is there's a little rock maybe that's been taken out, or a little piece that's gone in. There's something living in there. Anyway, you can make it up to be whatever you want it to be. Okay, now we are 25 minutes in here. We've constructed a really magical little brick or wall here, which we are crossing over. But in order to come across onto this side, we've got to take another line halfway and just lift it up a little bit here. So it's almost like seeing the other side of the bridge. All right, so we just above halfway, we're standing up so that we can see into this pathway here. All right, so we can see this pathway, but it's quite tricky because we have to be quite clever here. And these are subtle marks that you're going to make. If you still work on your bridge, you can leave them, you can come back to it. You want to skip across onto the top here. Now we want to have a very thin line, two lines that are very close together, that are coming across and joining up onto the right-hand side here. If you want to get your lines to separate a little bit as we go across there, that'll be magical, because we want them to be able to see inside here. And we can do that by having these horizontals. We have little horizontal lines that go over the top here. They're not horizontals, they're just creeping over. They're little ticks that go up, starting here, and they go up to the right and curve over. So it's almost like we're seeing into the inside there. And then just below that, starting on the right-hand side, we will come in, because these are little rocks that are on the top of our space. You might find that you haven't had enough space. You're not going to have enough space inside here. These small variations, it's not the end of the world. You can just go until you run out of space. So where those little ticks, we're going to come back and drop down, 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 and drop down until we eventually meet our own there. Okay, because inside there, that's where we're going to do more of this scribbling. We want to just scribble inside there to show that that is the inside. We're going to be walking down in through there. Okay, so then on this background area here, I don't need you to scribble in there. We are going to try and create the sense that we've come across the bridge to some foreign and lost place. And so in order to do that and create some sort of sense of romance, we want to now draw, and this is quite cool, this actually, is that you've got to create a little bit of a rise from that far bank that's down in the water there. Let's bring it up on the other side there and level it off up here. Okay, so this bridge is coming across, and then it will make its way up there once it's crossed over the river. But this now, top right quadrant, we've got to focus on the bottom left-hand quadrant. For compositional, there's the bottom left and there's the top left. You never want to have anything stuck right in the middle. And so what you're going to do is on the top here, we're going to draw a line that goes straight up, and then another line that goes straight up on the right-hand side. All right. And then we're going to apex it, and then have a little flat spot on the top there. Rock and roll. There we go. Okay. That is just going to be left like that because it is going to be an imaginary window into a foreign world. And if we left our drawing like that, that would be amazing. The problem is what tends to happen sometimes is you get people coming in when this is now on the wall and you framed your beautiful artwork and they say, what is that? And you have to explain yourself until eventually it ends up in the bathroom or in a drawer somewhere. So we need to give it a little bit more information. Try and make your I've made mine a little bit lower there. I want to make them the same height. My apologies. They need to be the same height before they start going over. All right. So we've got that there. On the other side, if we come right down to the back here, all right, we're going to have a line that doesn't quite go up as high as the other. And before it apexes, let's bring it up to that corner there. So it's climbing up. It's climbing up from the bottom right-hand side there. And we get that to be this construction now. We've come over our little thing and we're climbing up to the space here. And let's make it interesting. Anybody can draw a house, but you want to be able to create a sense of intrigue, something that you've been. So we're going to repeat that shape in there, but it's smaller because it's further away. All right. And give it a little top. Again, it's a little bit smaller. All right. And we're seeing it drop down. And this is going to cause a little bit of chaos for those of you. But it's not the end of the world. This is just fun. Okay. Off the back of these little line here, I want you to, where the one meets the other, all right, we're going to draw a little line dropping off because that wall needs to be made thicker. And I hope you can see that it's got a little bit of thickness and then it drops down and that's then got a side to it as well. So it's like you can see the bricks going up on the other side there. Okay, now what's fascinating is this poor little guy doesn't have a roof. And that's fine because it's got a lovely sense of intrigue. We've got a tall line coming in here, another one going over the side and then dropping down is this doorway. You've made your way across this fascinating bridge. And we've come into Alice in Wonderland here, the world of the secret garden where there's just loads of stories. Okay, this vertical, horizontal, and down again, you can scribble backwards and forwards. You can try and make it equidistant from the sides, and if you can, make it the same width, and that's perfect. Doesn't have to be. It's your doorway. Then you're going to have a little line down from the left-hand side. The left hand come in a little bit, and then you can, by having that little line come in, you'll be able to show that it's got a bit of thickness to it. Okay, and what you can do with that one is you can just give a little bit of a scribble inside that to color it in. And what that's going to do is just show us that there's a little bit of depth to it. That's, okay. And then up the top here, there would have been perhaps a loft where, let's draw a wide vertical, quite far apart from each other. And then not to make bifurcated windows, but to maybe make two vertical windows. They're not, mine are not equidistant from the side. You probably wonder how on earth did you make a brick that big, but let's make those two up the top. So we've got two beautiful little windows up the top there. Again, you can come in from the left-hand side, and you can come from the left-hand side, which shows the width of the building, the width of that wall, and we color that guy in. Magic. There we go. All right. So now, if things were to fall apart, you could come in and leave the drawing as is. And this was a a great word of Picasso's. He said that your drawing should be complete the whole time. There should be the simplest form of expression the entire time. So we may be at a space now where you could perhaps walk away. Let's put a single window on the top at the back here, just a single one, and again that little wall with a line to the left of it. So we've created this little window past that back wall, and that could end up being your very basic house. But what's interesting is that you can create more information here. If we take a little line off the left-hand side of our top there, let's bring it down so that we can create a little bit of space on the right-hand side there. And that gives a bit more body to the and also what we're looking is there going to be light coming from this side or from this side, so that we create the three-dimensional form. And that's totally up to you. It's probably a little bit easier to get the stark light hitting this wall here, like we may have a little bit of light coming in here as well. We get to see the bricks. So let's do a little bit of a scribble away here. And that should be able to make some really exciting stuff. Hi, Rox from Pennsylvania. It's nice to have you with us this evening. And I hope Eunice is joining us. She had body combat earlier today. And she was a phenomenal brain, Dr. Eunice. And she is hopefully joining us. She didn't take art at school, but not everyone makes the right decisions. And so we've got that. Again, we're going to just shade inside there as well. And I'm pretty sure Tracy's joined us as well from Bernie, my sister from another mother. And she's my bestie from across the world, which is very nice. Innovation. It's called innovation. All right. Thank you for shouting from across the world to say we can't see anything anymore. Okay, and it will come back in a second. All right, so now that we've created that very interesting little thing on the hill, we've got to create a little bit more sense of depth the way it goes from here. We're going to carry across into the background. We've done this 30 minutes now. We want to be able to finish off by giving us a sense of background, which means that a very light line is going to dribble away up on the left-hand side here. Okay, so what we're immediately doing now is giving ourselves a sense of depth. Okay, we've got this background area that is climbing up there, and then in front of that, a little line below that, we're going to get another one that will come in, and what we can do is we can wobble it really quite excitingly on the left there as it comes in. So we're just creating a space, I suppose, and then right in the foreground, what we're going to do is create little cauliflower shapes. All right, so that we've got maybe like a little forest in the valley here. This forest is wobbling, just creating. The nice thing is that when you create your cauliflowers, they tend to just wobble up. Small one, then a big one. All right, they're not cauliflowers, they're just basic shapes for trees. And in order to be able to see those, we need to make either the foreground or the background darker. So we'll come and look at that in due course. In case we needed to finish off now, what we would do is we would look for some dark in the background here. Let's say, let's scribble in that space underneath the bridge here. Right, because maybe that water is going to drop off into the valley there. And then also, what we do is then we start scribbling our grass. And now there's some really fascinating interpretations of the scribble method that were sent from all over. And that the scribbling is the idea is that by flicking up, you're creating grass, right? We've got our little line, that's our edge there, where we flick up this line, the sense of direction. Okay, there we go. So we're just flicking up and creating a sense of traction there. You can see how I'm literally just scribbling in order to create a different variety for that side there. Okay, and we're going to scribble our way all the way up the side here. And if you can, you want to start at the bottom and just flick up and let your putting it down and then flicking up. Because the grass starts at the bottom and then it gets thinner as it goes up. Okay, so that you can then also do on the on the left-hand side underneath this bridge. Take your time to do these little guys because they're thinking about leaning over the water, and then also as you come further forward here. So we're generating texture. We've got this lovely geometric on the left and above, but then down below here we want to be able to really scribble in and get some variety going. So you scribble more up towards the left-hand side, and what that will do is create a little gully. So you can come along, and then as you start moving, you go up left, and you come back down. And what that will create is this, maybe since it is a little gully in there, and then you can take a vertical line at the top of it. Okay, Samson's starting to saw. Hey, class going on here. You can snore if you pay rent. Right, so then, my voice is probably a bit too monotonous. Alrighty then, so we've got that coming across. Now we're going to need to do something at the top here. In order to see the top of the bridge, we can just, and this is totally up to interpretation, you want to be able to scribble on top of the bridge without making sure that you don't cover over the bricks, right? But you're wanting to scribble in the direction that this tree grows. So we have our tree on the side here. You're wanting to scribble in the direction that the object grows, right? So it's going to fan out from the center. So if you want to go along and scribble in there, you can scribble intelligently. Yes, this is all scribbling, but you want to be able to scribble intelligently and give us a little bit of a flair there. But making sure that once you get down to just the top of the bridge there, you're making sure that it just ends up being a solid. So I'll cross hatch all the way across just to make sure that I'm getting it all in. I'll scribble all the way across. And you want to try and come back and then break up that geometric line you've created. But you know that you've been able to create the important contrast between the background and this foreground top of the bridge. Wicked sticks, there we go. So we're creating, it's going to end up being a little too geometric, but you're creating a little bit of chaos there. Now, in order for us to see that those are trees as well, we want to be able to create some dark in the background. But what we're going to do in order to do that is we'll pick up some ink from somewhere else and do that. Okay, so let's think about now switching over. We've got this beautiful historic moment at the back here. Knows what that story is, but we've got some lines that needed a bit of grass on top of them. Okay, so we've got that broken up, and maybe our building could do with a bit more. We'll come in and have a look at that just now. But let's take the brush. Let's switch across to the brush. I've ended up having this one's a little bit wider today, but it's a Dala sable. It's soft. You can have a very thick, heavy brush, a paint brush, even that does the walls. It's totally up to you. And the idea is you just pick up a little bit of water. Okay, picking up a little bit of water. And just if you haven't done this before, you want to just start in an area that is maybe not too difficult and you're not going to cause chaos. And the reason I say that is that it's very quick. You can very easily destroy the artwork. You want to just take a little bit of time and enjoy the process of bringing the water in. And what the water is going to do in this dark side here, we want to run along the bottom of our bridge here. All right. And picking up a little bit of that water, we'll go over, and remember that you can pick up some of the bricks, run along the cement or the mortar that may have been down and they just piled up on top of each other. So you don't just go over the whole thing. You want to be able to keep some of that light coming out. So you want to practice with your brush maybe in this area. Up the top there, as it came over the ridge, I've got a solid line, but then as it drops down, you start seeing individual bricks that are creating all right, so it's nice that we've still got this vertical then that will go in here. We drop that off. There we go. Nice and simple. Okay. Now this is the wow factor. This is really wicked because you can take one of these things and these brushes and it really makes it quite quick. Give yourself a thumbs up or a wow face if you feel that you can now suddenly realize this was actually quite good fun, because what it's done is it shows you the ease of being able to create a watercolor. Now I'm just going over the tops of my scribbles that I've made here now in the foreground. All right. And the thing is, the brush is doing exactly the same thing. It starts at the bottom, and by flicking up, you get that spike. All right, I've gone and created too much on the right-hand side there, obliterated, but it doesn't matter. That can just become a bush. All right. And so what you'll see then by doing that, you can take the ink that's on the brush and you can pop down into the foreground here, and where you haven't had any mark making with a pen, you get it to drift off and it fades out. You get that spiral focus effect that it's just coming in and then the real art starts in the middle. So making sure that your mark making is going in the same direction on the right hand side there, you'll get that sense of movement going into the painting up to the artwork there. Okay, you want to try and use until the brush runs out of water. Don't go back to the water. You want to stay in control of how much ink you use the whole time. Okay, now I'm going to run on the right-hand side of my building here and up the right-hand side of the walls, and then on the inside and then the dark area. So you're running your brush over where you'll see that this where your lines are. And again, you don't want to go over it too much. You literally just want to we're getting that light and dark developing. Okay, there's a beautiful sense of strong contrast in the background there. What you want to do now is, whilst we've got this brush and we've picked up some of this ink, that's when we run into this background area here. We've got the opportunity to run into the background there. And we'll find that that will be able to be a contrast against our beautiful white face of the building. So we get that contrast face, contrast. And as you come to the top of that cliff there, the top of this ridge at the back here, and colouring that in. It's nice to sometimes have a sense of depth in the middle there, but I seem to have missed that this week. So mixed it up, but you're running straight across. And what I did there is I picked up some ink from my darker areas. I picked up a little bit of ink to be able to carry, and I'm now going to behind our cauliflowers. If we can leave, we want to just pick up some of that ink, and so what ends up happening is you get the cauliflowers or the tops of your trees to stand out. Okay, and you get that little sense of depth to just bounce over, and it's really quite exciting, because now this last part where you really want this bridge, it's got a beautiful sense of texture to it, and that texture really happens as a result of being able to see the light and dark contrast. So you're going to do very carefully with your brush along the top where we scribbled. And you want to run your brush horizontally. See, I've got my little finger onto the page here just to offer a sense of steadiness. And then I'm going to just, like I was doing, I'm going to just flick up and stab my brush so I get a different texture. It's not grass. It's actually trees with leaves. So by stabbing my brush, I get a little bit of a different texture. And also I'm making sure that I'm leaving light. It's a different type of light. It's not a grass light. So by having a different type of texture, you get a different light that may exist bouncing off the back there. Okay, and then I'm just going to shade that off there. So to try and make it to be a little bit darker than that distant one. Okay, now this is really, what other part I love the most is where you start stepping back and saying, right, where is it that we can try and just pull it out a little bit more, and I may just need to give you a little bit of time to catch up there, but at the same time, I don't want you to spend too much time doing something. You want to just be able to flick along. This area at the back here, all right, we've created a background, but if we can run our brushes diagonally off the base here, we want to be able to continue to create that sense that this river is going off at an angle here. All right, so we're flicking up our grass here. And this is where it ends up being quite exciting, because you get to have just the verticals to drop down very delicately. You've got to be very careful how that you don't obliterate but we want to get some reflection by having just straight vertical lines dropping off there. I say straight vertical, now that looks like I've gone off to the left. But you want to have it just dropping down straight. All right, all the way into the background there, you get that to be the lines. And by having those straight vertical lines, you then have a little drift off of a horizontal. What that does is it just shows that it's a different texture to the rest of the work. Okay, so you've got a lovely subject matter. There's a really wonky bridge that we've ended up developing here. And but at the same time, it's not bad either. It's just a walk in the afternoon where we've been able to take our pen and our brush with us, a little piece of paper, very easy to carry in the picnic basket, and a fun thing to do with the family, just to go with somebody and just have a little chat maybe, or talk about what happened at school this week, and scribble away where there's no judgment. And I'm picking up a little bit of ink here, and I'm just, again, trying to get some more depth going on in that background so that it shows that it's coming down to the water. Now you might want to do a little bit of touch-ups, a couple of touch-ups. How would I do that? And this is before I'm actually going to say pens down like an exam, is that you want to try and maybe get a little bit more going on at the back here. This was an area that I neglected when we were drawing, is you can go back in there with your pen and you get it to just create a little bit of texture. So you're showing that, you know what, that is the edge of the river that is underneath the bridge at the back there. And it can drop down to the right as well as to the left. So you get that little going up there. There's some lovely texture that can happen there. And then the last thing that I said we would possibly think about doing is creating some information in the front here. If you bring a lintel over the top of your barn wall there. Sorry, Fenton, am I boring you? No. And okay, so we've got that little lintel that goes across maybe the corner walls. You have cornerstones that are coming in. Maybe there are a couple there. And don't know who your uncle is, but if it's Bob, there we go. Nice and simple. A nice little evening of making some drawing. And next week, we want to encourage businesses to get their teams to log in and have some fun and feel a sense of unity amongst colleagues. So invite your colleagues to get together and let's have fun. So we want to see loads of teams thinking creatively. In this new world that we're entering our way into, there's a real necessity and need for us to think differently. So what would be really quite wicked is for you to send me pictures of what you've done, of the work that you've been doing with your family. And it's so amazing to be able to see how families sit together in an environment and work together. So we really look forward to next week, where you maybe get your teams together, or just your family, but send us a picture of what you managed to do this evening. And well done. Give yourself a pat on the back, give yourself a round of applause, because it is absolutely possible to make art. And simple step by step. If you haven't done it, shame on you. We'll see you next week. Have a good one.